the excitement and the adrenaline surge, as it's just like when a buck finally comes out in the field and you get the crosshairs on him, and here we go. When these ducks finally do make a move and they're coming up and you say, this is it, and you can feel it, and you get that adrenaline surge. That's one thing that when I see the ducks come up and I drop the net over them, I say, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this.
The award-winning Tennessee WildCast is on the air with the latest on hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. Make welcome your host, drummer and outdoor expert novice, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into this edition of Tennessee WildCast. We're glad you're tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We got a great show lined up for you today. We're in West Tennessee. Miss Amy Spencer is helping me co-host today, and I'm glad she invited me along for an interesting conversation. I'm excited.
This could be fun.
Yeah. Mr. David Vandegriff, a wildlife tech here in West Tennessee, has banded 12,000 plus or 12,000 ducks,
plus
wood
now.
ducks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to have this conversation and hear all about this, hear about how he does it, learn about David and his history with the agency and all the work that he's done for waterfowlers out there, and it's going to be fun.
I want to start out by saying David has banded 12,287 wood ducks in Tennessee. That is 48% of all the wood ducks banded in Tennessee. This is the wood duck king right here.
Well,
He's speechless.
it's been a team effort. It ain't always just been me. I've had a lot of help.
Well, I know it's probably not an easy job chasing those ducks down and getting them all gathered up.
It starts early. It starts in June, preparing the sites and then baiting the sites, and you got to wait for the ducks to get on, and then it's early morning. You got to get up early and then try to contact everybody to see how many people's going to be able to help you, and you got your gear and everything set out ahead of time, and got your net and your rockets and your blind and all set out, and so you've already gone through a heck of a lot of work by the time you get to the point where you actually go and just sit and wait on them.
Just to get there, it's a chore.
It is.
Well, let's jump back. I want folks who are watching and listening to learn a little bit about you first, and tell us a little about yourself, how you got started with the agency, and then we'll dive into this banding.
Right out of high school, in 1978, the federal government had a program called the Young Adult Conservation Corps, and I was fortunate enough to get a position on, at the time it was the Anderson Tully Wildlife Management Area, because the timber company still owned it and we leased it from them, and I worked on that program for a year. And it's a little bit like our intern programs now, that they work for so many weeks, and then hopefully when they graduate there will be a position. Well, when I got done with the year program, there was not a position with TWRA. So I got on with another state agency called the Oldbine Fork River Basin Authority, and I worked for them for 3 years until an opening came open, and I made a lateral transfer over into TWRA, and that was probably around 1983.
Okay, all right.
So I've been here since then.
Yeah, and from our conversations before we got started today, you had your hands in a lot of things.
So you would have actually started out with the turkey trapping, when all of our trapping and moving them across the state.
Turkey trapping was when you would almost do the same thing like you do the ducks. You prepare your sites early, and then as soon as deer season was over, you would start baiting your sites and getting your turkeys on. And there was always a competition to be the very first one in the region or even in the state to catch the first turkeys, to be the first one to say, come across on the radio and say, hey, I've got turkeys, where do I need to go? And if you could do that, oh boy, that was just kind of like a gold feather in your cap.
Yeah.
You didn't get anything for it, but it was a little, hey, I got the first ones. And but it was, we had a big push on turkeys for years, and some of the places, that you did trap turkeys, I might set on turkeys. I have set on turkey a month. and not catch a turkey.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy at all. And you get up every morning, and not like the duck trapping, but you would get up every morning and go and set and try to catch a few birds. You might not catch 8, 10 birds, box them up and get them out of there. But turkey trapping was a little tougher than what the ducks are.
So you were instrumental in growing this turkey population across the state. You were capturing some of the first turkeys.
I have moved turkeys as far as the Buffalo River.
Wow.
I've moved them that far, but primarily just scattered them around in Region 1. Most of the time, the turkeys we caught in Region 1 stayed in Region 1.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I've talked to a lot of guys and gals. They say, we never had deer, we never had turkeys, but all because of folks like David.
It was a big effort through the agency, and then the National Wild Turkey Federation assisted a lot. Especially when it came to the boxes and different types of equipment, they helped a lot.
Yeah.
So, what year did you start trapping the wood ducks?
It was probably in the early 90s. I'd say 92, 93. I went several years and never did even think about a wood duck. And my first supervisor that I had was getting ready to retire. And we were driving down the road one day, and we looked down off there towards the area, and a little old slough down there. It had a bunch of willows around it. He said, that'd probably be a good loafing place for wood ducks. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, he handed me these old banding pliers, which I still have, and they're actually about a half a size smaller than the bands that we put on ducks now. And he said, I'm getting ready to retire. He said, but I think this is something that you would enjoy, is banding these wood ducks. So I started banding some ducks with the Fish and Wildlife crew that was on Lower Hatchie, and they were shooting the net, about 3 nets connected together, about 6 rockets, and they were shooting on the shoreline. So I cut my teeth with that, and as soon as I got that candy in my bloodstream, I was hooked. But I couldn't figure out, most of the sloughs and ponds that you have in the woods don't have a shoreline like that. And I kept thinking, what in the world can I do? I said, well, I have caught turkeys out of a box. Let's see if I can catch wood ducks out of a box. So I got me a net made. It was pretty close to about the same size as the turkey net I'd been using. It just had skirts on it, and it was a little heavier, and it was treated to withstand water and rot. And I said, all right. So I was using the same wood boxes that we use for turkeys, and I'd pack it in there, and I started taking well, it wasn't a little video camera, it's the kind you set on your shoulder, and I'd set it there beside of me, and there for about a year or two, I videoed every shot that I made on ducks. And I could tell if I had my angle too high or if I had my bait too far out. And it took me a while till I finally got it down to where the bait pile needed to be, and the angle of the rockets was really important, because you get it too high, ducks have a tendency just to kind of roll back towards the water. They don't jump just straight up in the air like turkeys. They just do kind of a roll, and right up under there they go. Yeah. So needless to say, I made many a shot to where I had several ducks on bait and caught just very few. But I learned after a while how to get my angle correct. And then I had the problem that usually during a year you might shoot 3 or 4 times for turkeys, so the oak boxes would hold up. But when I got to shooting ducks, at the time I was shooting 12, 14 times in the summer, and I was blowing the boxes up. And so I finally got me a fabricator to build me a box that was made out of metal. And I put me some legs on it that I could adjust for the angles of the rockets, and it was plenty heavy. These rockets, when they go off, they have such a burst about them that the back of the box will come up and the front of the box will stand up. So it was angling my net in a bad way, and he put me some little sleeves on the side that I could anchor it down into the ground. and I needed it just solid as it could be. And so when the rockets went off, the box wasn't moving, and that improved. Everything continues to improve to get your numbers better. And so I got to the point to where I expected every time I shot, I needed 30, 40, or 50. And then when you started getting that on a regular basis, well, I got to do better than that. I got to have a lot more ducks under there. But it was truly a learning experience.
And you've been using the traps, these type of traps, for ever since you started, right?
Yeah, I've got the same net. I have tried several times to get it reproduced by some net makers, and they've never got it right. So what used to be the front of the net, where the rocket charges come out and they'll burn the net after a while, I finally had to turn the net around, put the rocket ropes on the back end of it, and use the back end for the weights, because it was so many holes and I had it patched up so much.
Yeah.
And it's when you look at it now, it looks pretty much like a mess, but it still catches ducks.
Now, I know you started out catching a few here and there, but what's the most you've ever caught?
This year, we had a shot that was around 220 under
In
that.
one
and
net.
the net.
So is that after you got the 12,000?
No, that's before that. The net is a 30 by 35 net, so it's not a real big net, but I couldn't have a real big net for some of the places in the woods that I was shooting. And at the time when I started, the timber company wasn't real big on letting me cut trees down to make openings. So I'd have to pretty much find an opening that was pretty good and then kind of trim as I went along.
Yeah.
And so you needed a smaller net than you would a shoreline net, and just to keep them happy, because I didn't want them to shut me down after I'd done figured out about halfway how to do it.
Well, I don't want to get too far before we talk about this. This was the rocket that shot the net and captured the 12,000th bird. Is that right?
It's the same type of rocket.
Same type of rocket.
If I had used the rocket that we had caught the 12,000 with, this has been up a little and it's beat up.
They had to have a good one for the award.
So yeah, I had to have a good one to put in the house.
But hold it up for folks if you don't mind, if you can, to show them. I mean, it's heavy, but that's what one looks like, and that's
it's approximately about 10 pounds. So you can imagine the thrust that it takes, the charge, to throw this thing into the air, because that's pretty much what it's doing, is throwing it in the air, because the charge usually burns out about midway up and then it just starts to fall.
Comes down.
So, and what this actually says is it's got David's name on it, and it says 12,000 banded wood ducks, August the 11th of 2022. And you actually, I know this from a backstory, but you didn't know you were right at the 12,000 that day.
I did not know. I was thinking I was more close to 10,000. And it was a pretty long ordeal for Chris Park and then for Jamie to go back through all of these years of
because they had to start back to like 92 and 93 and go through all the records.
And then you start counting, and I had never done that. I said, boy, that's a pretty good chore, but I know that I'm probably around 10,000.
Well, they figured it up, and they knew, and so there was a whole scheme kind of going on behind the scenes to get you that magical number, and then... They just caught me flat-footed. We were on a brand-new site and never shot it before, and I was kind of excited because one of the guys that was helping us, Austin Bibb, who worked for us in the CWD lab, he had worked with me and Chris for years, and then even back when he was in high school, he would come and work and band the ducks, and he had his son there. Yes.
So I was kind of nervous. I wanted to make a shot. I knew that he was there, and that was what was important to me, that he could band a duck. And I didn't have a clue.
That's a side note we need to go to in a minute.
I did not have a clue of anything, and we had a fellow there who was videoing everything. Okay, we've had people there before videoing, and so I still didn't have a clue. And then when we shot and we got to banding the ducks, I noticed that Jamie reached down and he grabbed an old female. I mean, just a gorgeous, just glad to put a band on this old gal. And he kept I'd get ready to get the duck, well, he'd just move off. And somebody else would come in there with a juvenile duck. He'd go, okay, Jamie, no. He was trying to get to where that duck was going to be 12,000, and we were still about 5 or 6 off. And I thought, he's acting very strange. But I just, we kept on banding, and then finally he walked up and he said, "This is the golden duck." I didn't have a clue what he was talking. I said,
he was like, "No, it's a wood duck.
You've been acting strange, and now you're talking funny." And I reached to get the old duck, and he pulled it back, and I thought, what? He said, "This is the golden duck." It didn't register. And he said, "This is the 12,000th duck that you will have banded." And then I was wondering why everybody's standing around. He quit picking up ducks, and they was all standing around taking pictures like when Pujols comes to the plate in St. Louis. Yeah. And I'm standing there, and everybody's got their cameras up, and I'm thinking, what's going on? And then he told me this is 12,000, and it really surprised me. I was really, really pleased that they had done this for me, and like I say, it has been a team effort over the years. So many different people, so many just interested people. I've had Boy Scout groups and Royal Ranger groups and teachers, and it's been a really good PR thing for the agency to show that we do more for wildlife than just make regulations where you can kill them.
Right.
And that's what I wanted to say. David is always taking people like Austin's son and other kids. I mean, I don't know how many agency kids you've taken or other volunteers that he has taken to go and trap wood ducks. And that has been one thing that has been spectacular about his career is he's allowed all these people to go with him and enjoy this moment because not everybody gets to band a wood duck.
Not everybody gets to. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And, they can get pictures. I usually would let them all band a duck and then get a picture with their parents and just something to have and to remember.
Yeah, and you're sharing that passion that you have to maybe one of these days that young boy or girl.
It's still a passion. A lot of times when the ducks come up on the bait to the bank, it takes more than one try. They've been coming up now for a month, but to a wood duck, every time he comes up, it's the first time. And one of them will squeal, or you liable to have a great blue fly over, or you have a hawk fly over, just anything, and they flip-flop all the way back to the water. And usually, my blaster that I use to shoot the net, you got one button you push down to charge it, and then you push the second button for it to go off. And I don't know how many times I've had that first button down and about ready for the second button. Well, these ducks that night of the 12,000, I think they came up 4 or 5 times. And by the time they had done flip-flopped on me, my hand was shaking. Just right like that right there. I said, good grief. And they come up that last time, and I said, fellas, I think that's most of them.
And you needed 63 on that one, too.
Oh, on that day, you needed 63.
I didn't wait for all the ducks to get up out of the water. I done had it.
Oh, wow.
I done had it.
Had the video crew there and everything. We couldn't miss this one.
I said, when we get the majority of them, they had it. I'm fixing to shoot, and we did, and I think we ended up catching about 80, which some of them were rebands, and that was what they were sweating bullets over too. Out of that 80, 62 of them had to be ready for a band, and they didn't, and then we had 80 and about, I don't know, 15 of them already had a band on them, and so they were sweating, but I wouldn't. I didn't know what was going on.
You had no idea.
I had no idea.
We've talked about the bands, and we're sitting here. You actually wear this every time, and tell us,
tool.
Your homemade tool, and hold it up and explain to people how this works and how you got to this. So
I have been made fun of so many times.
I think it looks cool.
There was times, and not in the last few years. I've had help when I've asked for it, but there has been times in my career that I couldn't get help because we had a lot to do, and then we had manpower issues, but I would go by myself, and I've caught up to 100 ducks by myself, and I had duck bands were on a string, and they were closed up on a string, so you had to take time to ease them off the string, open them up, and then put them on the duck. And that was time consuming, and the ducks were staying on the net way too long. So I picked up one of my old military pistol belts and said, I think I can do something different here. And I took some hard plastic, actually it's water line, and run a wire through it and bend it over. And the water line is just the right diameter to where you can go ahead and open the bands up and put them on there. And when you pull the cap band off, you can slide these off. The band is already open. You put it in the banders and then put it right on the duck and give them a throw. And then you put this on, wrap it around your waist, and I've got, it holds about 50 bands on both sides.
And you got it color coded. What's that?
Got it color coded. The right side is blue. The left side's red. This is males. This is females. And the bands, I got the numbers, the beginning number and the ending numbers already down, so that when I get done banding, I can look at where I'm at and I can tell you right off the bat how many that I just banded. The only time that I have to stop is when you catch an old duck after hatch your duck, and you have to stop and write that number down.
Okay.
But yeah, this thing has worked for me many a year, but I have had been made fun of, and
No, not in
some
this
of my
outfit.
buddy. Oh yeah, I put it on, and then there's Duck Man. Put on your belt, Duck Man. You know, kind of like Batman, I reckon. But it has served a purpose. It really does good.
Yeah.
And
So you said, talking about your old ducks, or you the ones that already get bands on. So what is the oldest one you've ever caught?
let me see. I recaptured an old female that was 9 years to the month that I had banded her, and when I caught her, she was already an after hatch-year duck. So I don't really know how old she was, but it was 9 years between me seeing her.
So maybe
And-
10, 11, 12.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like a kid on Christmas when I run the number down and saw how old she was.
Excitement.
Yes, I was. She had survived all those years, and not telling how many baby ducks she's
She had,
raised.
yeah.
Well, and some survive, some don't. So where have your ducks flown to, and where have they been harvested?
Most of our ducks that we ban go south. They'll go into Mississippi and down into Louisiana. Now, I have had some go north.
Really?
I kid all the time, the ones that go north, that the shock of the blast and the net going over them, it messes their compass up. But we've had them go as far as Minnesota and Delaware,
Wow. Wow.
that far. But the majority of them go south.
And how are you notified on those? How do you know those have been harvested?
It comes back through the banding lab when people call in that they have harvested the duck, and then
Okay.
that comes to Nashville, and then we'll get a readout from Jamie Fedderson on it about where our ducks has gone and what kind and how many have been killed.
Okay.
Well, I'm supposed to ask you about a young male you trapped below Jackson, Mississippi.
We trapped the duck. And then he couldn't get enough of it, so he went on down into Mississippi, and then they caught him again, about the same week.
So he likes
He likes free food. He likes bass. He does. I said a lot of times when they get on that weed, it really hooks them. They come back again.
it's
and
that
again.
sugar in the bloodstream.
It is. It gets them going.
So what is your most unique trap day?
I guess the days that we go and you have ducks that not only come up on the bank, they'll come off a body of water and start flying in, just falling and hitting and falling in on the bait. And those are fun days. I mean, you could sell tickets. I say this is a ticket day.
Yeah.
That you could sell tickets to have an audience to see this, because it's pretty phenomenal when they'll come in and they land in the trees and they come out of the trees and just fly in. And there's been times, as many times as a duck has been to that bait pile, it don't never hurt to have a confidence booster, and a lot of times it doesn't take a whole lot. We look for a cardinal to get on the bait or a dove to get on the bait.
Something where they think, yeah, it's
But
okay.
the funniest thing I had seen in a long time, I was on a slough, and I had the ducks were all up on the bank, and it's like they draw a line in the sand, and nobody wants to go by it. and I had a red-eared slider come out of the water, worked his way through the ducks, worked right on up to the bait pile, and all that work he went through, by the time he got to that bait pile, that was enough confidence for those ducks. They run all over that dude. I mean, he had duck tracks all over his back, and they was hitting him on his head. And he just kind of stopped and he looked around and I'm getting out of Dodge, and he headed back. But that was the funniest thing, that a red-eared slider would build enough confidence for these ducks to get up there. But that was funny. But you have days that you just about get your ducks, and then you'll have somebody come in a boat. I've had times when I've had crop dusters they'll get up on the bank, and the crop duster will come over, and they don't handle that well at all. Great blues, hawks. I mean, I've had otters pop up in them. I've had beavers come up, coons show up, bobcats, you name it, ruin your whole morning. You done got up at 2 o'clock for nothing. And so but that all comes with it. It ain't anything you can do about it.
Yeah.
Now, after all these years and all these ducks, what's your favorite part about it?
I think it's the excitement and the adrenaline surge, as it's just like when a buck finally comes out in the field and you get the crosshairs on him, and here we go. When these ducks finally do make a move and they're coming up, and you say, this is it, and you can feel it. And you get that adrenaline surge. It's almost the same as hunting them. You watch the ducks come in, they get a little closer, you get your gun, you take it off safe, and you get ready to go. And that's what I'll do. Pick up, take it off safe, get ready to let it go. It's the same adrenaline surge you get when you see a big bunch of mallards come in the decoys or something, and it's right before you shoot. Because after you shoot, it's kind of like shooting the deer. You got to get him out.
Yep.
Now the work starts.
Yeah, now the work starts.
I'm sure it's really similar. I mean, even if it's a doe or a buck, you still get that adrenaline rush. You probably get that same adrenaline rush no matter what, the number of birds or the type of bird.
It doesn't make any difference.
And I have seen tons of videos from the kids that have been with David and the adrenaline rush that they get by being there with him banding the first duck.
Yeah, slinging ducks. They got little claws. They'll get a kid's cuticles and no band. He's gone. Releasing them about as fast as they can get them out from under the net.
Well, David, I appreciate you joining us today.
All right.
This has been fun.
It has been fun.
Learned a lot. Thank you for all you do for the agency and continue to do. You're still working for us and
Still
working hard.
For 'em. That's one thing that when I see the ducks come up and I drop the net over them, I say, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this.
And he has a new goal. I've heard what the new goal is.
Yeah, we're probably going to shoot for maybe 15.
That's what I heard, 15,000.
All right. Awesome.
With a lot of help from everybody that helps me, we'll get it.
Well, you give us a call. We'll be there with cameras in hand,
All
and
right.
we'll document that day.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you, David.
All right.
Amy, thank you for pulling this together. And thank you guys for watching, for listening.
Hope y'all learned something today.
Yeah, it's been great. I have, for sure. This is Tennessee WildCast. We thank you for watching and tuning in, for listening on the radio, on social media, wherever you find us. Keep coming back, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hey, it's all about Tennessee wildlife. It's what we do. Tennessee WildCast will be on the air again next week. We'll see you then.